Hello, and welcome to our conversation about vocabulary. Last week we talked about fluency and how fluency contributes to the reading process, and this week we're going to be discussing the whole concept of vocabulary and why it's important in the development of children in their reading. Why is vocabulary important for reading? Knowledge of word meanings is the most important single factor in reading or listening comprehension. Students must be able to interpret the meaning of most of the words in a text in order to make sense of it. So our buddies at Fountas and Pinnell have this whole list of what competent vocabulary acquirers do. They learn new words by encountering them in context during conversation and in their reading. They connect new words with those they already know, a process that accelerates and becomes more efficient as their vocabularies grow. They use word parts and their functions, including affixes, base words, and root words, to identify the meaning of new multisyllable words. They recognize when words have the same or about the same meaning, which are synonyms, and the opposite meanings, which are antonyms. They recognize that words may have multiple meanings and use context to determine the precise meaning intended by the speaker or the writer. They determine the meanings and pronunciations of words using dictionaries and other references. They understand figurative uses of words. They use contextual clues and knowledge of language to understand new words while listening and reading. And they use new words while listening and reading. So what do we teach and when do we teach it in terms of vocabulary instruction? Well, we have early concept words. So our little guys in preschool and kindergarten, when they first come to school, they learn colors and numbers, the days of the week, the months of the year, and the seasons. And remember when we read that chapter about emergent literacy in the Tompkins text, where she talked a lot about that environmental print. So things are labeled all over the classroom in preschool and kindergarten classrooms so that we develop those early concept words with our little guys. Then we move on to labels, including family words like mother, father, sister, neighborhood words like street, sign, shop, food words like pizza, carrots, and bread, and then animal words, bird, dog, cows, and horses. We move on to compound words. Earring, earthquake, campfire, keyboard, brainstorm, skyscraper, turnpike, daycare, jack-in-the-box. All of those compound words, if you separate them, have different meanings. So an ear and a ring, two totally different things. But when you put those two words together, they come up with a totally different meaning. We then move on to figurative uses of words. Remember, we talked about that pragmatic cueing system where our English language learners have the most difficult time with these kinds of words. Metaphors where we compare, make comparisons without like or as. We have similes where we can use comparisons using like or as. And then we have those idiomatic expressions like sly as a fox and raining cats and dogs. Here's the poem by Kay Starbird called December Leaves. And as I read this, I want you to see if you can recognize where the metaphors are, where the similes are, where those idiomatic expressions are. The fallen leaves are cornflakes that fill the lawn's wide dish, and night and noon the wind's a spoon that stirs them with a swish. The sky's a silver sifter, a sifting white and slow, that gently shakes on crisp brown flakes the sugar known as snow. We then move on to blended words. We have horrible and terrific. When we blend those two words together, we get horrific. Horrible and tremendous create horrendous. Science and fiction come up with a new word called sci-fi. Squirm and wiggle, we put those together and we get squiggle. We move on to onomatopoetic words, words that have sounds. Hear the lively song of the frogs in yonder pond. Crick, crick, crickety, crick, brrrump. Then we teach words and content. We stretch across content areas, including science and social studies and math. We might introduce some weather words, some transportation words, some space words. We also teach words that have multiple meanings, where you have to actually read the sentence to understand what the word might mean. So we have the word can. I can run. Can you? Can is a verb. And then we have can. Put the trash in the trash can. Can is a noun. So what are the reader's resources in learning a new word? Well, the most popular resource, of course, is context clues, where we use the words around the word to help us try to make a definition. We use morphemic analysis. That is a word that will come up in the Foundations of Reading test, where we take a look at the word parts, prefixes and suffixes and root words. We have word families. We ask an expert advice. We might ask our neighbor or a teacher in the classroom. And then the last resort should be the dictionary, mainly because the dictionary breaks down the comprehension the most. In order for you to take a dictionary out of your desk or go across the room to find a dictionary, you have to stop what you're doing, stop what you're reading, go get the book, look up the word, find what the word means, and then go back to what it is that you're reading. That takes a lot of time and a lot of comprehension is lost. So what doesn't work when we're teaching vocabulary? Well, looking up the word doesn't work. Writing down the definition does not work. That's short-term learning. More short-term learning is memorization. Worksheets and workbooks, more short-term learning. We know there's no research out there that says that there's any transformation or transition from a worksheet to real-world learning. Also, the research tells us to be careful about constantly using context clues because that can also create some problems as well. So what does work when we're teaching vocabulary? Well, we want to be pre-active with our little guys and do some instruction prior to what they're reading. We pick out words that we think that they might struggle with so that when they encounter the word in their reading, they already have learned what that word means. We select words for quick reader access where we preview. You have useful words, what the reader needs at that time. We have interesting words that connect to what they already know. And we anticipate words where we activate their prior knowledge. Then we need to do some interactive instruction, what we do during the reading. Well, we teach the words in text relationship to other words. We're related to their background knowledge. We revisit the words that they've already learned in the pre-teaching. Now we revisit those words in depth. We awaken an interest in words. We create word walls, and then we might have personal dictionaries and word lists for our kiddos. And then finally, reflective instruction. What do we do after the reading? We expect our kids to use these new words that they've learned in their conversation, in their reading, and we want to see the words in their writing. Creating word walls in the classroom is brilliant because we're constantly revisiting those new words that they've learned, not just today when we learn the new words or today when we're just reading a piece of something, but also all year long. I was just in a 5th grade classroom, and the 5th grade teacher had an entire wall in her classroom that was devoted just to new words that the kids were learning. And what she did with these kids is she challenged them. When the kids used those words in their conversation or saw the words in their reading or used the words in their writing, she let them take a little sticker and put the sticker on the index card of the new word. And so the kids are now able to see all year long how many times they've used these words in their conversation and in their reading and in their writing. We have kids create personal dictionaries. We ask them to do some written responses where they include these new words in their writing. We ask them to explore words and the relationships of words to concepts. We classify and organize words, and then we use word maps. The real key is reading. You need to give kids time to silently read and different types of reading, but also directly and indirectly teach vocabulary, doing that before, during, and after reading strategies. Teaching strategies to gain vocabulary, using word studies, and build all these new words into your read-alouds. Kids need multiple exposures to words on all levels. Again, those word walls are going to come in handy, using personal dictionaries and repeated visits for multiple literacy tasks. Rich context for instruction, labeling the room, for example, in those early classes, kindergarten and preschool. Restructuring vocabulary tasks. If something isn't working, then dump it and recognize when it's not working. Provide opportunities for active engagement, both individual and collaborative. And then, of course, integrate technology as much as you can. Value the importance of incidental learning moments, like those aha moments. Assess and evaluate your kids constantly to find out where they are and how you can help them to grow. And don't rely on one method or one strategy, because we know that differentiation is huge, and you need to make sure that you're meeting the needs of all the kiddos that are sitting in front of you. So what are some effective ways to teach vocabulary to children in grades K through 3? Well, young children learn the meanings of new vocabulary words both indirectly and directly. Children learn vocabulary when they participate in daily conversation, especially with fluent adults. When they listen to others read aloud, especially when the reader draws children's attention to new words or engages them in conversation about books. And when children read a wide range of grade-appropriate fiction and nonfiction. So as you listen to this, I hope that those Common Core standards are coming to mind, because the new Common Core standards require all of this stuff. Another effective way is direct vocabulary learning. And that occurs when teachers provide explicit instruction on the meaning of specific words and word learning strategies. To help students learn specific new words, teachers often introduce vocabulary that students will encounter when they read a specified text, encourage students to use new words in different contexts, and provide repeated exposure to new words in varying contexts. Word learning strategies include the use of dictionaries and other reference aids. So things to consider when planning vocabulary instruction. Determine which words are critical for your kiddos to understand. Which of those critical words could be connected to their prior knowledge? Which of those critical words could be learned through context, and which would have to be bridged with direct instruction? Janet Allen is a leading researcher in terms of vocabulary instruction, and one of her books is called Words, Words, Words. And she encourages educators to ask themselves the following questions to consider when teaching new words to kiddos. Which words are most important to understand in the text? How much prior knowledge will students have about this word or its related concept? Is the word encountered frequently? Does the word have multiple meanings? Is the concept significant, and does it require pre-teaching? Which words can be figured out from context? Are there words that could be grouped together to enhance understanding a concept? What strategies could you employ to help students integrate the concept into their lives? How can you make repeated exposures to the word or concept productive and enjoyable? And how can you help use the word or concept in meaningful ways and in multiple contexts? So there's some background information and just building that foundation for you in terms of vocabulary instruction. When you come to class next, we're going to be doing some activities that relate to vocabulary instruction. We're going to create our own word wall in terms of things we've learned so far this semester. And then we're going to start that new literacy project. So come prepared, and I'll see you on Wednesday.